Real estate is one of the simplest ways to build long-term wealth, and one of the easiest ways to get wrecked if you don't know what you're doing. So this show, it exists for one main reason: clarity. Me and Keith, we're talking deals, markets, financing, flips, all of it, but always through the lens of what's working, what isn't working, and why. I'm your host, Dayton Lindsey, and I promise you that this podcast is going to help you save time, money, and you from painful lessons. So, let's get into this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the First Deal podcast. I'm your host, Dayton, and here to probably my right, if you're watching on YouTube, is Keith. So, Keith, I have some more questions for you, and hopefully they won't take up as much time as the last one did. Well, that was a good one.
Not as skilled.
Well, that's okay. You can work on it. We got many more episodes to go, so.
Yeah.
So, my question to you is, what contingencies should beginners use when looking at deals or trying to put a property under contract?
Are you stalking me? Because I literally just recorded a video on this last night. This is so weird.
Maybe.
This is so weird.
Yep. I show up at 2 a.m.
So great question. Again, this is a question that I get all the time, and I'll answer in part in this, and then I'll direct you to, I'll direct our listeners to go watch the full breakdown, because I gave this like a whole video in and of itself. That'll also be on the YouTube channel. Contingencies, I call them golden parachutes, right? It's like the deal is going south, and I got to pull the cord, right? We have to, if you're in an F-35 or F-22 or F-18 or whatever fighter jet, you know, you think of, or like, and like this thing is crashing, and I don't want to die. I'm not going to burn with it. You pull on that lever and you eject, right? And your parachute unfurls and you land safely on the ground. Sometimes you have to pull the chute in order to save yourself, because the deal cannot be saved. So it's important to have paperwork, not a handshake, not an email, not a verbal, yeah, I understand. Heck to the no. Like, we are going to put this in writing in our purchase and sales agreement. So in the video that you'll find, maybe we can even link it in the description or something like that. Or
most likely. That's what we'll probably do.
We'll put it on the screen if that's a thing. Then you can go watch that video. I give away my purchase and sales agreement in the description of that video. And so all of the contingencies that I am about to talk about, they're already baked in to our purchase and sales agreement. And so I want to be really clear that there's a lot of contingencies that people talk about. There's very few contingencies that you actually need.
Okay.
A lot of contingencies.
What would be the core ones then?
The one that I like the most, well, the easiest one is an inspection contingency. Okay. Basically, I'm allowed to inspect the house, right? With every house that I put under contract, that I have an intention to purchase, I'm going to inspect that property. And when I inspect that property, if I find something that doesn't check out, like you told me, oh, the house is in beautiful condition, I just renovated the kitchen. No lie, this has actually happened to me. I've had some tenants in it for 3 years. Last year, we redid the kitchen. It's in beautiful shape. I've never had a problem. Dope. Okay, great. Doesn't need anything. I sent the home inspector to the house. Home inspector calls me. Mr. Gillispie, I'd like to confirm the address with you one more time. Sure thing. Let me pull it up. I pull up my purchase and sales agreement. And he goes, is it 123 Main Street, whatever the address was? And I say, yeah, that's correct. And he goes, I'm going to send you a photo of the house that I'm standing at. And I need you to confirm whether or not this is the right address. Ding, ding, or whatever. My phone buzzes. I open up my text messages. I look at this picture, and I go, I hope to God that that's not the right house. Because it was fully burnt down, except for a chimney on the left and like half of a wall on the right. And the rest of the house had literally like caved in on itself, and it was burnt to a crisp. Dude, I called that seller back furious. And he swore up and down. He had no idea that this happened. And I go, okay, genius. So you're telling me that you had this house rented? Yeah, we've had it rented. Cool. So you're collecting rent money? No, I haven't been collecting rent money for like 6 months. Lie. You told me that you have been collecting rent money every single month and that the sellers just moved out. No. They moved out like 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So why'd they move out? Yeah, they didn't say. They just moved. Really? They didn't say perhaps there's no roof, or the house caught on fire, or I can't breathe, or something, smells like smoke. I don't know. Like, would have thought that this would have been passed to you in some form or fashion. Have you gotten an insurance check? A lot of times, that dude meant to lie to me. I'm convinced to this day, like, he absolutely was trying to screw me. Because he knew that at the time I lived in Hawaii in this house. I don't actually remember what state this house was, but it obviously wasn't in Hawaii. I think it was in Illinois. Pretty sure it was Chicago. I think that he was trying to take advantage of the fact that I'm an out-of-state investor and thinking that I'm not going to have boots on the ground. Therefore, there was beautiful pictures on Zillow. It looked great, and I was getting it for an amazing price. I think he was trying to dupe me. I don't think that most people are like that. I think most people have good intentions and they just forget things here and there, right? They've lived in the house for 20 years and they've just learned to deal with certain things. Whereas this is my first time looking at the house and I'm looking at every single bad thing that needs to be fixed before this is in rent-ready condition or like ready to put on the market. So an inspection contingency is definitely the easiest thing. I'll actually go ahead and pull up my purchase and sales agreement so I can read it just a little bit of the purchase and sales agreement. We just had this edited, by the way, last weekend by my attorney. Inspection contingency. Buyer shall have the right to inspect all aspects of the property, including but not limiting to the physical condition of the property, the value of the property, the title, the encumbrances, and any matters not shown by public record, and shall have the right up to the time of closing to terminate this agreement for any reason in the buyer's sole discretion. That's in our paragraph 8, inspection contingency. So I have the right to inspect all of these things, and I have up until the time of closing to terminate this agreement for any reason in the buyer's sole discretion, in my sole discretion. Now we have several more, sentences in this paragraph, but that's probably the easiest one, the one that I like the most, because I don't use really any other contingencies. Like some people will say to put a financing contingency. I don't think that that's very good. That doesn't separate you from just like, if you were to list the property on the MLS and get a buyer, like their finance, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, conventional, whatever, like their financing could go away super easy, especially FHA, VA financing, like super high standards for the house. If you have termites, you're done. There's things that are just huge no-goes with especially FHA financing. So I don't like doing a financing contingency because I want differentiating factors between me and other people. Another one is the famous business partner approval financing contingency. So, hey, I'm agreeing with you right now, but my business partner is going to have to look over everything and approve as well. I actually used this for like many years, probably the first 2.5, 3 years of my business. It's all right. I didn't have a partner. My wife was my partner. And like, if I went back home and I did some due diligence, I'm being like super transparent, like fairly vulnerable right now on YouTube. If I went back to my house and I redid the numbers and I find out like, hey, this isn't actually a deal, like I'm not going to make any money, I tell my wife, hey, I need you to tell me it's a bad deal and I'm not going to do it. She's my partner. I'm married. So I'm out. I can now back out of the contract. Here's the issue that I don't like about this. This screams, I don't know my numbers. I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want that. I don't want them to think that I have to defer to a higher authority. I want them to know I've got you. I know my numbers because I'm bringing my numbers to you. I'm bringing the freaking comps to the call, right? Like I am prepared. I am also the one in power. I am the authority. I am the one who has the position of power to say whether or not go or no go, buy or not buy. So I don't like the whole financing contingency. I don't like the partner approval contingency. To me, the inspection contingency is the best contingency because It doesn't make you look like a fool in deferring higher authority. And it still allows you to create a differentiating factor between you and everybody else by not throwing in the financing. And if anybody wants more, which there's a couple of others, there's 2 other really good ones, go watch the full YouTube video where I broke it down.
Go watch more YouTube. Yep, there's the CTA. All right. So, since you're going to answer all their questions in another YouTube video, I'll save the rest of my questions on that for that video or a later episode. But another question I wanted to ask you today was more about the sales process, because we talked about what contingencies should a beginner or any buyer have when it comes to purchasing a property or investment. One of my the question I wanted to ask you was, how do you negotiate with the seller without being pushy or salesy? Because I know in the last episode we talked about not making offers, but I'm imagining a lot of people listening to this are still going to make offers because that's what they're comfortable with. So with your wisdom, what advice would you give to them to avoid being pushy or salesy when talking with the seller?
I will teach you the same way that my sales coach taught me. Unfortunately, we're not in person, so I can't do this with you up in front of the class like he did with us. But basically, pretend like, there's 60 people in the class, and I bring you up to the front of the room, and I say, Dayton, just act natural, okay? Act natural. You go, okay. Now, I turn you, I spin you a little bit to face me. So we're facing each other, and the audience is to my right, to your left. We're facing each other, right? And I come up to you and I say one more time, act natural. And then I put both my hands on your shoulders and I lean into you. What are you going to do? There's no audio.
Whoops, rookie mistake. So to answer your question, what am I going to do acting naturally when someone pushes on my shoulders? Obviously, I'm going to whip around and ask either, what are you doing, or hit you.
Okay.
But in this scenario, I'm not going to hit you.
So you're not going to tolerate me pushing you, and you're immediately going to get defensive, whether verbally or physically, correct? Okay, cool. Yeah. Now, let's say that I don't... Okay, so we agree that we're not going to go out into an all-out brawl, but I don't engage you with words, and I come back to you, and I put my hands on your shoulders, and I lean into you again. What are you going to do?
I am going to push back.
Yes. You have just perfectly emulated a seller. When we push, they get defensive. If we continue, they push back. This is exactly what sales psychology teaches us. This is exactly why we need to use NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which simply, if we were to break that down, neuro-linguistic programming, this is how words affect our brain, like even the chemistry of our brain, and help us to either disconnect or unconnect, if that's a thing, neurons, neurological pathways. That's what NLP is, using words to create neural synapses in somebody's brain. When we push, they automatically don't like that. If I say, Dayton, I really think this is a good idea for you and your family, immediately, you're going to go through that same exact process. You are going to get defensive immediately. Hold on. Why is it not a good situation for me and my family? Why are you saying that? What's in it for you? Why would you want? What's your alternative motive?
How do you know that's the best for my family?
You don't even know about this thing. You haven't even asked me this thing, right? So who do you have the authority to say that, right? We immediately get defensive.
Exactly,
this is human nature, by the way. So knowing that we should never make a suggestion like this. Dayton, I said it great, right? That didn't sound like terrible. Dayton, I really think this would be a good idea for you. That probably sounds normal to some people who are listening to this. And that's terrible. This is something that you cannot... This is sinful in sales. In sales, proper leadership, actually, dare I say. So in my opinion, sales is nothing more than effective communication. And true leaders use effective communication to accomplish the mission. True leaders use effective communication to accomplish the mission. And if I just said that effective communication is sales, that sales is nothing more than effective communication, what I really just said is Leaders use sales to accomplish the mission. So how do we effectively communicate? Instead of telling, we should ask questions. If anybody has seen the movie Inception, it's absolutely an amazing movie. It has nothing to do with sales, but the idea of planting the seed, like right, a dream within a dream. Like I'm going to plant this idea in your brain, and you're going to think it's your idea. So here's a universal truth. If you hear something from me, it's debatable. But if you hear something from you, it's gospel. You believe it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said it. But if you hear it from me, it's automatically debatable. You have to like process. You have to question it. You're kind of on the fence with this, right? However, if I ask you a series, this is effective leadership. You shouldn't tell people what to do. You should ask them what to do. Dare I say this is even empowering in the workplace, not even talking with sellers. But you should ask people these questions. Mr. Seller, just out of curiosity. I love that, by the way. Just out of curiosity. Or another one, Mr. Seller, you mind if I ask you a hard question? Another one, Mr. Seller, I'd like to get a little bit personal with you. Mr. Seller, not to be rude. Mr. Seller, to be completely candid, whatever. Like these are called softening statements, and they are preparatory for either a statement of command or a really hard question, like a deep question that is kind of uncomfortable. So to be really candid, Dayton, you've kind of put me between a rock and a hard place here. I don't really know where to go other than, just out of curiosity, how much is left on your mortgage?
Oh.
Stop. Don't even answer. Right. A lot of times, real estate investors will go, so what's the remaining balance on your mortgage? And the seller will respond, well, what the hell do you need to know for? Like, that's none of your business.
Quick aside, if you're getting value out of this, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below with what you want Keith and me to cover next. It helps the channel out a lot, and it tells us what you want to learn about. Anyways, back to the video.
I've heard this hundreds of times before I wisened up and I decided to stop asking it like that. Don't ask. How much? So about how much is left of the remaining balance on your mortgage? No. Softening statement first. Mr. Seller, this is going to be hard to swallow potentially, but the numbers on this are really tight. Is it okay if I ask you a super personal question?
Of course.
You say of course, but this is going to be a series of personal questions that you may not be okay with, but how much do you have left on your mortgage? So
you see, when you say that, it's a lot more, it's like you're a lot more easing into it because I don't feel attacked, and that's obviously what you were going for in the conversation. Yeah. I don't get defensive to your question because it's just you're easing into it.
Yeah. So that's how I go about not being pushy. And then I never have my own idea. I swear to you, I never have an original idea. It is always the seller's idea. Okay. I will lead them to that a little bit. Sure. So just out of curiosity, Mr. Seller, you told me that you had tried selling it with a realtor, couldn't sell it with a realtor. You tried renting it, and you couldn't get any renters except for that one guy that you just had a terrible time with. So what are you going to do with it if you can't sell it? And let's pause. I have just done what's called an assumptive close while simultaneously poking the bear of like, here's this pain that you have had, here's this pain that you have had, and here's the one pain that you haven't had, but I'm going to make you say the thing that you don't want to happen. I'm not going to just assume that you know that this is a terrible road to go down. Just as the lady was telling me, I have to pay like $600, it's either $600 or $800 every quarter for the HOA, and it's $4,200 per year for my taxes. Like, I've held on to this for 3 years. It's almost $20,000 that I could have put towards a down payment of my house. And because I don't have a down payment of my house, I have to rent, and I don't even have enough money to be renting. So I'm like literally at my friend's house in the one bedroom apartment thing that they built above the garage. I don't even have my own space, and I feel guilty because I don't pay rent. And so I try to help out around the house where I can. But really, Keith, I just need to sell this property. Like, that's the story. This lady just connected all of these things for me today, this morning on the call. And all within 25 minutes. Because I just kept on asking her questions. So you've tried listing it with a realtor. Mind you, I don't remember if it was this podcast or last podcast, but she's had it listed.
I think it was the last
for
one.
3 years. And it hasn't sold. She's tried renting it. She did have a couple of people who, like, she vetted and they were, like, not good people to be renting to. So, like, well, why not just keep it? Why not just keep it in the family? Well, I already know the answer. It's $4,000 a month, and she can't live in the house, and blah 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 blah. All these series of things that are bad, that I connected emotional negativity to this thing. But I don't know that without asking this question. I need her to tell me. I need to hear it out of the horse's mouth. Well, Keith, I actually can't hold on to it because it's costing me money. So that's when I asked her. Again, this is all in the last podcast. Man,
yeah, it was.
Whatever. But that's when I asked her, like, well, why not just drop the price, like, super significantly with the realtor in hopes of getting a full retail buyer that's actually going to move in, rather than selling it to a real estate investor like me, whose only reason for buying it is for monetary gain. It's to make money. I have to buy it steeper if I'm going to be making money. Therefore, you make less money because the money, there's two parties and the money has to go to one or the other.
Yeah.
So do you care more about the time or do you care more about the money? And she said, I care more about the time. And I said, why is that? Most of the people that I talk to, they care more about the money. And she said, honey, I've had this thing listed for more than 3 years. It's just a financial drain. I said, so what I'm hearing is you do care about the money, but it's really the time that is causing the lack of money. And she goes, yes, exactly. Okay. So, I mean, basically, if I'm going to be buying this property and I'm going to be, and this is honest to God, I would actually be JVing with somebody. I wouldn't take this down myself. Yeah. I would be JVing with somebody else, and we both have our minimum requirements. This is leaving you potentially walking away with nothing. And that's my primary concern talking with you. That's my worry, is that you're not walking away with enough money for it to be worth it for you to sell it. Let's pause the role play really quickly right here. You should never end on a statement. When you end on a statement, you're not leading the call. You are being led because the other person is going to ask you a question. And if I left it right there, what is her natural question? So how much would you buy that property for? Well, I don't want her to ask me that question because I'm not going to give her an offer. Instead, I need her to give me the number. And so let's jump back into this. I've left that on a really good spot and I let it sit for a couple of seconds to let that sink in. And then what is this lady's name? I don't think they were going to watch this. I'm not saying her last name. Her name is Jean. And I said, Miss Jean, if you wanted to get this property sold quickly, what is just the absolute bottom dollar that you could see yourself walking away from the closing table with and still being satisfied? I'm not saying that you're happy. I'm just saying you got a little bit to walk away with and you don't have to cut a $200 check plus HOA fees this year. That's how we got to $2,000.
That was a nice continuation from the last episode that people are going to have to watch now.
I agree.
To get the full context of the story here. But you said a lot of good stuff in there, and I want to extract the essence out of what you just said for the people listening. And one of the things you talked about earlier was when you are talking with a seller, they're always going to question what comes out of your mouth. We were role-playing about the getting defensive and whatnot. They're always going to question what comes out of your mouth. But if you have that thought, they will instinctually go with it. So I want to put that into one sentence, and that is, people will always doubt the things they're told, but they'll never doubt the conclusions they come to about that thing. So that was point number one I want to take from that rant. And the second part would be the sales role play that you were talking about just recently, that you never want to end on a statement, because that gives power to the other person to ask you a question. And when you ask questions, you're the one in power. So you always want to ask open-ended questions, because that will, A, get you the knowledge for you to complete the deal or walk away from it if it's not a good deal for you. And B, you will be the one in control and leading the negotiations at the table. So those were two really powerful ideas that I wanted to really reframe for the context of the conversation. So I thought that was a really good discussion that we had and role play that we went through here.
Good summary too. I love talking
Yeah.
sales, dude. This is people need to learn.
Well, you wouldn't be in real estate investing if you didn't like sales. But no, maybe there are people that don't like sales and they are in real estate, but I haven't met any.
They won't be here for very long.
No, okay. Fair enough. Well, Keith, you've been awesome. That's all the time we have for today. So until next time, remember to like, sub, drop a comment of what you want us to talk about, and we will work it in.
Ask a question and we'll answer it.
Yep. But that's all for now, everyone. Take care.
Have a good one.
Real estate isn't magic. It's a skill. And the people who win long term are the ones that keep stacking the reps. That means learning, analyzing, staying patient, and making good decisions. If you want to keep building that skill with us, make sure to subscribe and send this to someone who needs to hear it, because I know you know someone that needs to. Anyways, that's all for today. Take care.